You know, whether it's calluses, bar chords, large chords, hammer-ons, pull-offs, or bending, everybody needs to overcome that physical aspect of the guitar initially. One of my own teachers described guitar as a sport of the fine muscles, and I believe he's correct. So I've been teaching guitar for around 7 years now, and there's one problem that I find in common with all my students, which is that their fingers hurt. Beyond stretching and calluses, we have the strength aspect of the muscles. And with that, I'd like to share with you the 2 main exercises that really helped me with my own finger strengthening. Let's get started. I actually did this when I was in Japan traveling. I didn't have access to a guitar. Though I got some weird looks on the subway, it was actually pretty effective. I found that I was able to return to the guitar around 2 weeks later without feeling like my hands were out of shape. Basically, the exercise involves crumpling and uncrumpling a single sheet of newspaper. Now, it's better if you can get the big ones, but a smaller piece of paper like bond paper will work just fine. I've got one full sheet that I've removed from the newspaper. As you can see, it's quite large. Now, there are a few rules to this exercise. The first rule is you can only use one hand. So none of this business of using 2 hands, you just use one hand. And the goal is to crumple the newspaper so that it perfectly fits inside of your hand and you're hiding it in there. I'm not going to be using any other objects. I can't use the ground or like my lap, my leg's right here. You can't use your leg or like the table in front of you. You've got to pull the newspaper into your hand. And you can see there's a grabbing motion and there's a pulling motion within this exercise. At a certain point, it gets really difficult and you really need to compress that newspaper. As you can see, I haven't quite hidden it in my hand, right? It's still kind of peeking out. So as you can see, it's working out the forearm muscles that are pulling your fingers in through this way. For the sake of time, let's say at some point I've hidden the newspaper I've hidden the newspaper completely in my hand, right? The final step of this is to uncrumple the newspaper completely in the same way until it is flat. Again, without having the table assist you or your lap or your other hand. Gotta put that behind your back, right? No shaking it out either. All right, there you go. Fully, mostly uncrumpled. While this pretty much exercises the same muscles as like those grip strengtheners or those stress balls that you find, it requires more dexterity and control. When you're playing guitar, you're not just squeezing the neck like a baseball bat. You have some pretty refined movements that require finger independence. So this exercise, what it basically does is it trains your fingers to actually have that independence and that strength gripping at a far reach, not just squeezing in here. Both hands would be my recommendation, both for the strength of the left hand and also for the right hand for finger picking. I used to call this the hand plank exercise. You'll see what I mean in a second. The exercise involves you basically hold this open position of your hand. The goal is to keep these fingertips as far away from each other as possible. Now, a few things just for your own hand's sake. You don't want to be doing this, like putting way too much strain on the back of your hand. That's not fun. So keep it pretty flat, pretty neutral, and just extend out this way. As you can see, I'm getting a little bit of a shiver there because I've already been doing the newspaper crumpling things. And you can hold it for 30 seconds or so, then you can relax it, then you can repeat with the other hand. So I believe the term for this is isometric, similar to like wall sits or planks, hence hand plank. You may be surprised how much this burns after a few seconds. Now this primarily works out the muscles that spread your fingers apart at the base, right here. So this brings up an interesting point where if you look at a guitar, let me just grab a guitar. I don't know why I don't have one. A lot of people look at chords and they say, oh, this chord is really large. Like this, that Every Breath You Take chord. A lot of people think that it's a larger chord, and it is a larger chord, until you realize, like, look how large my hand actually is once I extend it. It's not really the fact that your hands are too small to play guitar. Like, you can actually cover like an absurd amount of frets. Rather, it's that your fingers don't have the strength at this extreme distance to be able to hold a chord for an extended period of time. That's where you get that chord buzz from. While you can play the chord at the initial strum, you see your strength kind of dies out over time. So it's increasing that strength and that stability in your fingers to hold pressure even at a long distance. Now, this is like my favorite exercise to do because you can do it literally anywhere you want, right? Now, you might look weird like having your hands extended all the time, but this can be a lifesaver, especially working up to like larger Ted Greenish voicings. I music direct at Center Church in Irvine, California, where I also serve as deacon. And I actually had the entire music team try this hand plank thingamajig. And across many kinds of instruments that involve pressing or striking, drums, piano, violin, viola, or bass, their warm-up times were drastically shortened. They were able to play for much longer without getting fatigued. And for the relevant instruments, they noticed much less fret buzz. The bassist, who had trouble fretting with the pinky finger, now could do that just fine. In conclusion, those are the two favorite exercises that I use to keep my muscles in shape for guitar playing. All right, this is Nico signing out. Take care.